9 experienced hikers went to sleep in a frozen mountain camp. By morning, every single one of them was dead. Their tent had been cut open from the inside. Some were found barefoot in the snow. Others were discovered miles away from camp. And even after decades of investigations, no one can fully explain what happened that night. Tonight, we journey into one of the most chilling, unsolved mysteries ever recorded. The Dyatlov Pass Incident, January 1959. Deep within the frozen Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union, 9 young hikers prepared for an adventure that would become one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. They were not amateurs. These were experienced explorers, trained to survive harsh winters, dangerous terrain, and brutal weather conditions. Their leader was a 23-year-old engineering student named Igor Dyatlov. Confident, intelligent, and respected by his friends, Igor carefully planned every detail of the expedition. The group's goal was simple: reach the remote mountain known as Otorten and return home with stories of their journey. For them, it was supposed to be another exciting challenge, nothing more. As they left civilization behind, the world around them slowly changed. The roads disappeared. The villages became fewer and fewer. Soon, there was nothing but endless forests, snow-covered valleys, and distant mountains stretching across the horizon. The deeper they traveled, the quieter the world became. No traffic, no city lights. Only the sound of boots crunching through fresh snow. At first, the hikers were in high spirits. They laughed together. They sang songs. They took photographs to remember the adventure. The freezing temperatures didn't bother them. In fact, many of them enjoyed the challenge. But nature was preparing something far more powerful than any of them expected. As the days passed, the weather became increasingly hostile. Strong winds swept across the mountains. Snowstorms reduced visibility. The temperature continued to fall lower and lower. Still, the group pushed forward. On February 1st, the hikers approached the slopes near Otorten Mountain. The conditions were difficult. Visibility was poor. Snow covered familiar landmarks. Some researchers later believed the group may have accidentally drifted off their planned route. As evening approached, they faced a choice: turn back or set up camp where they were. The hikers decided to stay. Working together, they pitched their tent on an exposed mountainside covered in deep snow. The wind howled across the frozen slope. Darkness slowly swallowed the landscape. Inside the tent, the group settled in for the night. Perhaps they talked about home. Perhaps they discussed the next day's journey. Perhaps they simply listened to the wind outside and waited for sleep. None of them could possibly know that this would be their final night together. And somewhere beyond the thin walls of that tent, something was about to happen. Something so strange that more than 60 years later, the world is still searching for answers. February 1st, 1959. Night had completely fallen over the mountain. Outside the tent, the wind roared across the frozen slope like a living thing. The temperature had dropped far below freezing. Inside the tent, the 9 hikers tried to rest after a long and exhausting day. Beyond the thin canvas walls was nothing but darkness, an endless sea of snow stretching across the mountains. At some point during the night, something happened. Something so sudden and terrifying that it forced all 9 hikers to abandon the safety of their shelter. But what that thing was, no one knows. Weeks later, when rescue teams finally discovered the campsite, they found a scene that made no sense. The tent was still standing, partially buried beneath snow. But there was one detail that immediately caught everyone's attention. The fabric had been sliced open from the inside. The hikers had not exited through the normal entrance. Instead, they had cut their way out and fled directly into the freezing darkness. Why? What could possibly make experienced hikers leave a warm tent in the middle of a deadly winter night? The mystery only deepened. Investigators discovered footprints leading away from the tent. Not the footprints of people running wildly in panic, but the footprints of people walking, slowly, almost calmly, as if they were leaving under strange circumstances. The tracks continued down the mountainside toward a distant forest, and then they disappeared beneath fresh snow. Search teams followed the trail. Hours turned into days. Days turned into weeks. Finally, beneath a large cedar tree near the edge of the forest, they found the first 2 hikers. They were lying in the snow, barefoot, wearing only thin clothing despite the brutal cold. Nearby, investigators discovered the remains of a small fire. The 2 young men had clearly tried to survive. They had gathered branches, built a fire, and waited. But the freezing mountain was stronger. A short distance away, 3 more bodies were discovered, including Igor Dyatlov himself. They were positioned between the forest and the tent, as if they had been trying to return, trying to reach safety, trying to get back to the shelter they had abandoned. But they never made it. The mountain had claimed them first. Yet the strangest part of the mystery was still waiting to be uncovered. 4 hikers remained missing. No one knew where they were. No one knew what had happened after they left the tent. As winter slowly released its grip on the mountains and the snow began to melt, investigators prepared for a discovery that would transform a tragic accident into one of the most chilling mysteries in modern history. Because the final 4 hikers were about to reveal secrets that would leave experts searching for answers for decades to come.